proclamation for the As the mayor of the town of Clayton, I'd like to call this Clayton Town Council meeting to order. I ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious and heavenly Father, we thank you so much for the many blessings of this day. And we ask, Lord, now that you be with us as we proceed with the business for the town of Clayton. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. Do we have any adjustments to the agenda?
I guess we do, Mayor. It's requested that we remove item 3A from the consent agenda. That final warranty acceptance will be rescheduled to a later date. And additionally, I am asking that we move item 8A under new business, which is the Clayton High School joint use of turf field agreement, be moved to be heard as item 5A under introductions and special presentations.
All right, I have that noted. Next up is your consent agenda.
Move we approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, up next, our first thing under administrative items is going to be the swearing in of a new police officer.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Clerk, Mr. Town Manager, and members of the Town Council, I'm here tonight to present to you our newest police officer, Mr. Brandon Hart Rico. Mr. Rico is the 7th police officer I have hired since November of 2020, but at this point in time, our vacancies are now full. So
Awesome.
So I'll let you know that. Mr. Rico is from Wendell, North Carolina. He is a graduate of North Carolina State University. Not that had anything to do with me hiring him. He has a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology, and he recently graduated from Wake Technical College's Basic Law Enforcement Training Program in February this year. He has done an internship with the Zebulon Police Department, and he is here tonight with members of his family, which I will call up for his swearing in. His mother is Lisa Rico, if you'll come up. His father is Ricardo Rico. His sister is Mercedes Rico. His grandfather, Mr. Charles Hart.
He just had his 90th birthday on.
Okay, that's fine. His aunt Sharon Hart, his uncle Daniel Hart, and a cousin Tyler DeBenny. So without further, I'll turn it over to Ms. Moffett. That's the proclamation. That's not the swearing in. She gave me the wrong one. Is that it? Okay.
Ricardo, you want to join us? I, Brandon Hart Rico,
I, Brandon Hart Rico,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States of America,
the Constitution of the United States of America,
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
and authorities
which are
or
may be established
may be established
for the government thereof,
for the government thereof,
that I will endeavor to support,
that I will endeavor to support,
maintain, and defend
maintain, and defend
the Constitution of said state state,
the Constitution of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
that I will be alert and vigilant
that I will be alert and vigilant
to enforce the criminal laws
to enforce the criminal laws
of this state,
of this state,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
in any manner
in any manner
on account of personal bias
on account of personal bias
or prejudice,
or prejudice,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully and impartially
faithfully and impartially
execute the duties
execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a law enforcement officer
as a law enforcement officer
according to the best of my skill,
according to the best of my skill,
abilities,
abilities,
and judgment.
and judgment.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. This is your Bible words. That's okay. Put it right here.
We get these first thing in the morning, and I need one more. You already signed for me, so we're good. I'll make sure that it goes in the morning. Okay?
Leave this here.
That's what's yours today.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I just want to take one moment and recognize, we have several members from the department here tonight. Some are seated, some are standing, but I just want to take a moment to recognize them as well, and especially in honor of National Police Week last week. So thank you all.
That's great, thank you. I'm going to ask our new sworn officer to step up to the mic for a question and answer comment time. Thought you were going to be sly and slide out on the mayor.
Mayor, this way.
Right there.
Okay. Can I take this off?
Yes, sir. So I was just sitting here thinking, I believe this might be the first time we've actually had an officer sworn in during the council meeting since I had been the mayor. So first time in 18 years. And I want to thank the chief and all the support for that. It's nice that it's here, and it's nice that it's during a town council meeting, and it's nice that all of the citizens watching on the social media are able to see that. So second of all, I want to congratulate you because I think it says a whole lot about you that, one, you interviewed with Chief Greg Tart and made it through, but but two, I think it says a lot for you because, you know, Clayton's a great place to work, especially our law enforcement side of things. And for you to come out on top says a lot about your character and your abilities. So we welcome you to the town of Clayton.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, I thought you may have one question for him.
Oh, Mr. Grandis, you're the best at questions. Oh, yeah, I'm supposed to ask you. So I've been here a while, right? Okay. So I used to ask all of them once they got sworn in, are you radar certified?
This is my first time being sworn in. This is my first job, so I'm not.
Okay. Well, welcome to Clayton. There are plenty who are. Do not feel deficient.
I should be soon, though, so.
That's awesome. Well, again, congratulations and welcome to the town of Clayton.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Up next is our fire advisory board appointment recommendation.
Yes, thank you. We have had one of our longtime members on our fire advisory board that has had to turn in his resignation for personal reasons. We did recently interview for vacancies on the fire advisory board, so we are recommending that one of those people that was not appointed previously, by the name of Chris Carter, be appointed to fill this vacancy. And it will be a vacancy that will expire December of '23.
All right.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to appoint and approve their recommendation for Chris Carter to the Fire Advisory Board. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. Now is a good time if we want to transition the room. I don't know how many of you were planning on staying for my entire meeting while we're tickled to death to have you, but if you wish to be excused, now is a good time to do that. Thank you.
Yes. It's awesome. So you, like you said, you never really see that. Happy to be here. You made sure we was here for that. Absolutely.
No. Okay, and we do have some vacant seats if anybody wants to sit on the front row and be very attentive while you're on the front row, just like you're in school. That is awesome. All right, thank you. So up next, under introductions and special presentations, next item on our agenda is going to be a joint use discussion with Clayton High School. And I believe Bennett is here to present and welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Town Council members, Manager, Mr. Cabala. Nice to meet you, Deputy Town Manager, Ms. Gill. I am pleased to be here tonight with a couple of guests who I will introduce, but this is a great opportunity, I feel, to collaborate something that should have happened, I feel like, a long time ago, which is a partnership between the town and the school. When I became principal in 2016, one of my first tasks was to make sure that I reached out to the town and try to build cooperative relationships so that we could share resources, share ideas, and really recognize the fact that Clayton High School has such a special place in the history in the town of Clayton. And likewise, the town of Clayton wraps around Clayton High School with its love and support. And so I am pleased to present to you this evening an opportunity for us to put words to paper and an agreement to actually, I think, benefit both the school and the town. And so I'm pleased to present that to you. I have paper copies. I also shared it with Mr. Shelton, and I'm going to pull that up. I think I can just pull it up right here. All right. I did come bearing gifts of masks, but I feel like there might be collector's items at some point in time in the future. So if you don't open it and just keep it in the container, in probably 20 years, it'll still be worth $3. So this evening I come to you to talk about a collaboration agreement between the town and the school. And first, let me give you just a brief history about the school. When I became principal in 2016, one of the things that jumped off right on my first visit to campus after I've been gone for a little while was really the need for some facility upgrades in certain areas. We are a landlocked school, as you have seen as you've ridden past, and it was built in 1963, and some of the fields were built in the 70s and 80s, and there's an opportunity for us to reinvest and really to upgrade the facility use at our school. So I want to give a shout out to the Johnston County Board of Education, who is represented here tonight by Chairman Sutton, and board member Mr. Mike Wooten, has really dedicated resources to upgrading some of our facilities. As part of our bond, we received an opportunity to upgrade our football field house, have some outdoor bathrooms that were renovated, as well as our tennis courts were close to completion as well. Due to, or in large part thanks to the gift of Mr. Chris Archer, who is a Clayton alum, we were able to level both our baseball and softball fields in order to make it safer for our students. But it still continues to have issues, especially on our football field, our practice field, and our soccer field with drainage issues, where the old Champion building once stood. There continues to be an underground spring that eroded the foundation for the tennis courts and required that to be completely undone, but it continues to cause issues on our football field, parking lots, practice field, and our soccer fields, as well as damage to our track. So in a continual process, and here's just some pictures of what Clayton High School looked like about a year ago before the Fieldhouse project really got started, and just so that you can see some of the work that has taken place in the school. And again, I definitely want to congratulate and thank the school board for their commitment to getting some of these facilities improved. And so you can see now what it looks like present day with our field house and our vocational building. But I included this picture really so you can see the problem that is unique to Clayton High School, which is we only have about 30 acres on our campus. And some of our traditional high schools in Johnston County are over 100 acres. So they have plenty of practice field space, and they have space for multiple fields to be utilized at the same time. Whereas we share parking between our soccer and our football field, which limits the use. We can't have soccer going on at the same time as baseball. Our practice field is not regulation width, even for soccer or for football. So it creates some challenges that we have at our school and always using and needing field space. And so in my conversations with Mr. Barnard as the Parks and Rec Director, I know there's some issues that the town is looking to resolve as well. Some issues for needing additional field space for baseball and for softball, for soccer, for rugby, additional gym space in addition to the Clayton Community Center we utilize with Parks and Rec, Clayton Middle School and East Clayton Elementary, Cooper, but we didn't use the high school, which has a very nice gym that could have been utilized for town events. Meeting space for Town of Clayton. We've worked with the town on providing parking for big events like the Harvest Festival and the Christmas Parade and those things as well. So the town continues to need some of those things that we have at the school. And so the idea and proposal really was that we needed to create a joint use agreement between the Clayton High School and the town, which would serve as a standing partnership between the two entities. So we started having conversations back really in the fall of last year, fall of 2020, between different stakeholders, and looking at the opportunity of what an agreement would look like between the two entities and Clayton High School. So the details really is simple. The town of Clayton would make a financial investment in improving the facilities at Clayton High School, much like they have done at other parks and are committed to do at Parks and Rec. And in return, Clayton High School would basically become part of the Parks and Rec department outside of school hours. That the use of our facilities will be able to be utilized by Parks and Rec programs, by town citizens with a walking track, being able to be used by groups just like East Clayton Park is or Clayton Community Park is. So the terms of those agreements, get into the details, would be is that we would install field turf in our football stadium and soccer stadium. That is to, one, eliminate the drainage issues that we continue to have. And I must say, we have been very privileged to benefit from the generosity of some of our local residents who have dedicated a lot of time, money, and resources to making our fields look as good as they do right now. But in a long range, how sustainable is that? And furthermore, that is all done on a volunteer basis. What happens if those volunteers leave, and what are we left with? We also need to expand our football press box. It is aged, as many of you have maybe been to a game have seen. It is very small, and it is something certainly that is in need of a complete overhaul. Our expansion of our home bleachers, and I included this for the Board of Education, their numbers, our stadium capacity seating is much smaller than schools our same size or schools that are even smaller than us. So we need to expand our bleachers to be able to hold bigger events in the town. And we need to repair our track and even possibly replace the track altogether. So that's the plan, is what we will look at as part of a initial capital project to improve the facilities at Clayton High School. Just to give you an idea of what it could look like, I had Donnie, who is here from Field Turf, to answer any questions you have. Coach Handy, I want to introduce Coach Handy, Shane Handy is our football coach. Been working with these guys and just get an idea of what it could look like, what opportunities are available for our school. And so that is what we're envisioning, is a state-of-the-art facility for our students, but also for the town of Clayton to be able to utilize for different opportunities that take place in the town outside of the normal school day. or school year, much like Princeton did. And so I included in here this copy of what Princeton was able to put in at their place to be able to utilize not only with their high school and their middle school, but also through Parks and Rec. So here's some of the rationale behind it. It would provide us at the school multiple fields to allow for events to take place at the same time. 2 turf fields allows us to play soccer and football, JV football at the same time, but it also opens up the door for the town to host things like tournaments, soccer tournaments, rugby tournaments, things that are taking place in the town at a same site facility that already has parking, that already has outdoor bathrooms, that already has plenty of commercial development right around it in terms of restaurants and opportunities there, concession stands. It's a practice facility for us will always be available because we are landlocked. I remember I talked about our practice field. If our practice field takes on any amount of rain, it becomes unplayable. And so that it becomes a safety issue for our kids. Having 2 fields would allow us to have somewhere to practice because we're one of the few schools that practice on the field that we play on. Some have dedicated practice fields that we don't have at our school. It will allow us to expand sports. Lacrosse is coming. Rugby is already here. We're very proud of our club rugby team, but I do not have to tell you about what kind of toll rugby and lacrosse take on a grass field, especially after it rains or for heavy use. And it also provides longevity and financial opportunities for us to create revenue for the school and for the town. I included this picture in here in my presentation just to give you an idea. This is what happens when our practice field has too much water. Coach Handy probably saw this way too much here, and I saw it way too much as a principal and said, please get out of the parking lot practicing. But that's where our kids had to go. It's the first time some kid goes out there and turned his knee or popped his knee or turned his ankle on the muddy field. This is what we were reduced to practicing football in a parking lot in some cases. And so we know it was a wet winter. This was an unusual situation this year playing football in the spring, but it's still that field takes on any kind of water. It has drainage issues. The potential revenue, I want to highlight this for the town. This is an opportunity for the town to generate revenue through its Parks and Recreation program, not only by offering the opportunities, but being able to host things like club sports, being able to offer things like Top Gun and other traveling baseball, soccer opportunities, rugby. So it's an opportunity to bring people into the town, to get people to spend dollars in the town at our restaurants and our lodging opportunities, shopping. So this is a great opportunity for the town to really expand its market and its outreach in terms of generating revenue. And I highlighted this at the board meeting, but this honestly could be something that other towns across the county could replicate. This will be an opportunity for other municipalities to create similar type of agreements to improve facilities in their areas and really overall enhance the opportunities for all of Johnston County residents. So just to give you an idea, and there's some additional funding needs as well, requests to the County Parks and Recreation, which I kind of mentioned. There is an NFL grant that allows for additional funding sources because I know you're all waiting is what's it going to cost. So here's the anticipated funding for the project, and I brought the people here that have a little bit better idea about that, so if you have particular questions, I'm sure Donnie would be glad to answer. But we're looking at the entire project costing approximately $1.25 million for both fields to take place at the same time. The proposal is that the town of Clayton would contribute $500,000 toward that plan, matched by the Johnston County Board of Education as part of its commitment, capital outlay, bond referendums, however the district decides to contribute their $500,000. The additional $250,000 would come from grants like through the Johnston County Parks and Recreation Program, in-kind donations, or the NFL grant that we would apply for, and we feel like we would have a very good opportunity with the partnership between the town and the school in getting that grant. The maintenance costs would be covered by the town of Clayton as part of the Parks and Rec. Scott and I had a conversation about that, and really that it falls in line with other municipalities that have shared agreements with schools, but it also helps to create a sense of continuity between Clayton Middle School when Clayton Middle School is working with part of Clayton Community Park. Also, it's just one of those things that the town is utilizing. It becomes part of the Parks and Rec. So outside the school day, it really is a part of the Clayton Parks and Rec program. The labor will be provided, again, shared by the town of Clayton and Clayton High School. And Scott and I had great conversations about being able to share information with the liaison liaison or with someone who was in charge of monitoring those projects. And then we talked about the project has scalability. This funding come in, if costs came in cheaper, there's an opportunity to expand and do more things with the press box and the bleachers as well to expand as part of that project. So if we got additional grants. School support, I'm here to tell you the Clayton High School Parent Advisory Council unanimously supports this opportunity to join the school and the town, as does our athletic booster board, our coaches, our athletic directors, Coach Andy again is here, administrators all support this and recognize this unique opportunity that is in front of us. The Town Recreation Advisory Board has shared information. I appreciate Scott and Emily sharing that information to the Recreation Advisory Board for them to weigh in on their thoughts with it as well. And I have, again, 2 Board of Education members that are here. I appreciate Mayor Pro Tem Thompson and Mr. Grandis went with me last week to talk to the Board of Ed and share ideas with them before I came to you this evening. To me, it's a win-win-win. It's a win for everybody around, a win for the school, a win for the town, but honestly a win for our community and for our kids and for our citizens that utilize and have an additional place for them to utilize for recreation and activities. The town gets that access to facilities, and we didn't even talk about, and part of the agreement would also be the gyms for basketball space, parking lot, tennis courts, but even the cafeteria, the auditorium that is going to be completed on our school campus. So it's an opportunity for the town to expand and have larger venue areas for them to have bigger meetings and celebrations. And the county could use this again as a guide for other areas. So where are we at behind that? The conditional agreement really would be from the town and the Board of Ed. And so what I'm asking you this evening to propose or to consider is an opportunity to consider a conditional agreement pending the agreement by the Board of Education at their next meeting to enter into a joint use agreement between the 2 entities. Pending that approval, if that approval was given by both bodies, then we would apply immediately for the NFL grant, which that deadline is May 31st, and for the county Parks and Rec grants to acquire additional funding for this project. And then we would begin that process of replacing these fields as soon as possible. So those are our next steps. And I open it up to you for any questions or thoughts that you have. And really, I put the logos here of really the 4 entities that are in place here and how we could create a unique partnership for our town, school, and county. Thank you.
Awesome. Mr. Bond?
Thank you so much.
Sir.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I'm really excited about this. I do have a question, and I don't know if Scott is in the room or not. I don't see him. Scott,
You turn over there.
did we have a number for the maintenance and the total number? I know it's $500,000, but there's more to that $500,000. Am I correct?
Yes, sir. Just preliminarily, we'd probably be looking at a capital investment of around $100,000 to $125,000 per mower, truck trailer package, just the basic equipment to get us up and running to cover that site, as well as probably annual cost, staffing, materials to the tune of around $100,000. So that capital investment should last us 10 years. That mower, truck, trailer package, trailer should really last 20 years. But that mower and truck should last us 10. And then inside that other 100 is about 50% of that is staffing.
It's about $750 first kickoff, first time around, about $750,000.
No, sir, $125,000. Well, okay, plus the, yes,
I'm
sir.
adding everything together.
There you go.
So since the infrastructure will be in place, here I am shooting down the road now. Let me ask you this question. The infrastructure is in place. These fields, I'm going to talk about the fields for a minute. They should last, what, 10 or 12 years, something like that?
Generally speaking, you can count on the fields being warranted for a period of time of up to 10 years. There are a lot of sites that are recreation sites that are getting heavy play. I'll cite Rock Hill, South Carolina. They're in year 13, 14 on artificial turf. So, you know, 10's a great number, but with good maintenance, you can squeeze out 12, 13, 14, and then you're in a replacement cycle. But I'd say the numbers that you're going to receive from the industry and numbers that I've seen backed up because I've managed artificial turf for other departments at this point in time is that you get about a 7-year payback. So the cost to maintain that same amount of turf, if it were natural turf, is going to offset that investment cost to build it. So really, from year 7 until replacement, you're into the gravy, so to speak.
So basically, with the infrastructure in place, we wouldn't be paying another $500,000 for new fields. We'd just roll out a new field, correct? Maybe $100,000.
Not for somewhere in the 12 to 15 year range before
Yeah,
we would talk
when
about,
it's-
we would talk about what our partnership would look like and what reinvestment and replacement would
Yeah,
be.
replacement wouldn't cost us what? Install the new, basically. because-
It's really hard for me to say what it'll be that far down the road. A lot of times your sub-base and whatnot are going to last, and it's just going to be carpet replacement. That's not an area where I'm an expert, but, perfect.
Introduce Donnie Stoltz from Filter.
Yeah, Donnie Stoltz from Field Turf. I appreciate the opportunity. I come here wearing many hats, professional baseball player, college football player. I'm actually a school board member in McDowell County, so I understand what you guys are going through. Yeah, so your field replacement, to answer your question, it's about $225,000. Right now, field turf, we typically get 13 to 14 years out of our fields. Air Force Academy just got 18 years out of their field, which is incredible. But the grooming and stuff, the small day-to-day stuff, it takes about 15 minutes to groom the field versus 2 or 3 hours to cut grass and everything else. It is a huge transition for the counties, just to see the kids and everything enjoying it and the amount of use it gets right now. I did build my own facility, so I own 2 turf fields, and it completely changed Lake James and McDowell County, completely. I have 623 kids right now playing recreation, 623 in our town. And before our turf fields came in, we were roughly 150, 160 kids. So it brought so many more kids out because there was more time to get on the field with the water and everything else.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. And I deferred to Donnie on that and to Scott. And just to say, as part of the agreement would be is that there would be a shared cost at the time of replacement between the 2 entities. What we would do is, much like Princeton has done, is the revenue that the school generated off of hosting events and those kind of things, that money would be set aside to pay for that piece as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mr. Holder?
Yes, sir, Mr. Holder.
Mr. Jones, is this a one-time $500,000 or this every year?
Yes, sir. The initial proposal is for a one-time $500,000 initial investment into getting these 2 fields completed. The additional cost that Mr. Barnard mentioned would be from the town in terms of staffing or from needed facilities. But yes, sir.
I have one other concern. I lived in a neighborhood a few years back where the local town was using the elementary school athletic fields for softball and other items, and then the county decided they didn't want that done anymore, and it was stopped. What's the risk of this happening here?
I think that is part of the beauty of the agreement, Councilman Holder. The term that is proposed in this is a 15-year term to match the length of the fields, so that there is a joint skin in the game from that standpoint. I think the county recognizes, and I don't want to speak for our school board members here, but I do think that there is a great opportunity for them to look at our capital costs across the district and to look at facilities that need to be improved and upgraded. And this is a great way to get these things in place by sharing responsibility fiscally, as well as opening it up. One of the things that I think is important for me as the principal at Clayton High School is that our facility needs to be utilized by our town citizens. We took the locks off, and our track is open. We have people walking at midnight when they get off work. We have our tennis courts that people were playing on before they got torn up. We have people that go in our batting cages and softball, and play on our softball field on the weekends. What this is an opportunity to do really is to streamline that opportunity. And as Mr. Barnard and I talked about as part of the agreement, is that the town would have that first right to go through. Any third parties that would utilize the town just like they do right now with Community Park or East Clayton Community. So it really is an opportunity to bring the 2 entities together that I think is a long-term solution for both of our perspectives.
I agree. Anyone else? Mr. Granis?
I actually have a question for Scott.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
So obviously, I think we're looking for some sort of return on investment. Can you speak to that with respect to what sort of timeline we would be looking to recoup the investment?
I think maybe the best way I could answer that question in speaking with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board as well as formerly with Manager Solomon, we tried to put a value on what we'd be receiving out of this deal. And for us to construct 3 gymnasiums, 6 tennis courts, a softball field, a baseball field, practice field, soccer, football, track, the stadiums, but we're not in the stadium business often, but that'll have some value to us as we market these facilities for tournament play. For us to build that, we're in the $30 to $35 million range before we buy property. And its location central to downtown Clayton and its proximity to all of our other parks, for baseball being close to community, for East Clayton where we're likely to also construct artificial turf ourselves. This is really going to create a lot of synergy, not only for local play, but again, that play that we haven't quite monetized yet, that tournament play that's playing here in town. And for all the kids in Clayton that do play tournaments, they're always playing away. And this gives an opportunity for them to be playing at home. So it's kind of a point of pride. So that may not be exactly the question you asked, but hopefully I answered what you were after.
Well, essentially, your programming is going to have a cost involved to it to citizens. And that's where the return on investment will obviously come in. And I clearly get that for us to try to do an investment for fields like we have the opportunity to get here, you're right, we're probably looking at $35–40 million. And I think we all realize that we don't have the capacity to do something like that, especially inside of 1 year. So that in itself, I think, is truly a win-win. And as Dr. John says, a win-win-win.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Yeah, I think it's fantastic, a true partnership for a community school located in the community. And I'm glad that, I'm really happy that we're able to show how intergovernments can work together. And this is a great example of how that can play out. And I want to welcome our chairman and welcome our board member, Mr. Wooten, both of you. Thank you for being here. And yes, Mr. Chairman, I knew you had a little something to say, so come on up to the microphone.
Mayor McLeod and council and staff, thank you for this opportunity. We are looking forward to this collaboration. And thank you, Mr. Grandis and Mr. Thompson, for coming last week to our meeting to show support from your side and just to offer the opportunity for the collaboration. Mr. Holder, I think that to answer your question, we as a school board, if this agreement is agreed upon both parties through our attorneys and everything else, and we're all good there, I don't think you have to worry about us pulling out of a commitment. I think this is a definite thing that we can monitor and use to go across the entire county to support our other community schools in the municipalities that they are in. And this is an awesome opportunity for Clayton and Clayton High School. And we have a meeting next week on May 27th. Finding what you all decide tonight, we'll move forward on our end, and we take it to our full board, which the presentation was given last week, but it'll be an action item for us next week. So we just appreciate the time tonight, appreciate the opportunity to collaborate with you all, and we look forward to more meetings like this and moving forward in this endeavor. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any other questions or comments?
No. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I was just asking, in terms of the commitment that he's asking for tonight, what is the plan for that moving forward tonight? What are we looking for?
So, I mean, do you want to have the interim manager, you know, work out this agreement? Or do you want to just vote on it and let them work out the rest of the agreement or any other details? I think it's pretty detailed, but, or do you want a consensus?
I do have a copy of the updated proposal if anyone needs to review it. I do have a copy that I shared, if anybody wants to look over it. But really using the boilerplate language that came from the Smithfield Recreation and Aquatic Center as a guide of a joint venture between the town of Smithfield and the Johnston County Public Schools really outline, I shared it with Scott, Mr. Mayor, this evening. Really, what I would ask is if, with a conditional approval for the details to be determined upon, but that I could go to the school board on Thursday of next week and say that the town is in, and if they get a commitment as well, then I'm able to contact with Donnie and Field Turf and able to get the project started. There is a deadline of May 31st for that NFL grant, which is $250,000 for field and $50,000 for equipment. So what I would ask is if we're moving that direction, is that I could get a signed letter from Parks and Rec and from the town saying this is what we're doing, same thing from the school system, so that I could fill out that NFL grant opportunity, which Mr. Wooten actually informed me about as a former NFL player, and it's a great opportunity. And I spoke with the guy from Carolina Panthers, who, by the way, are putting in field turf in their stadium, and he feels like we have a very strong application due to a shared use agreement, as well as the size of our school, the size of our community, and this location of being able to be a part of NFL, Play 60 initiative and the Heads Up USA Football initiative. So I feel like we have a very strong application to put forth for that grant, but I do have a May 31st deadline for that consideration.
From Robert. So the question is, do we have the financing to be able to take care of this? Thumbs up. I'm good. Okay, awesome.
Whoever said yes, thank you.
It was the finance director.
Okay, gotcha.
Mr. Mayor, if I can elaborate, the Finance Director, Robert McKay, did indicate we have looked at a few options of how we could fund this if you guys do choose to move forward with it, either through fund balance appropriation or potentially sales tax usage as well. So if you guys direct us to go ahead and move forward, we're trying to figure out what that best source for recommendation is. We can bring that back to you.
Awesome. Mr. Granis.
So, Rich, I have a couple of questions. The first thing would be, when we say we have the money, I'm assuming that means that we have we can acquire the 500,000 and also 125 for equipment and 100 for materials. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I may ask Robert to
You're
come up.
looking at about 725 to 750?
Yeah, I think we'd have to understand exactly when that commitment needs to be made and when the transfer of funds. I think I still have some questions too about who's managing the project and how that would all happen. But again, preliminarily looking at it, the initial options that we would bring forward to you are either utilization of some sales tax revenues that have come in above our estimates. Those are dollars that had not been programmed or committed to other initiatives as of yet. So the overall impact to our future plans like the CIP should be minimal. Another option is to utilize the fund balance that is in the general fund currently. Again, tomorrow during our budget discussions, we can go elaborate more into what availability there is there, but those would be the two pools of dollars that we could potentially program for this.
Okay. Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Dr. Jones, would a memorandum of understanding or a resolution be sufficient at this juncture? Or are you looking for a hard vote commitment?
I will defer just to Board Chair Sutton as to what they would need on their side to move forward. And I also would defer to Donnie. Donnie can speak to a little more about projects and how it's been done in other locations, probably better than I can. I will say that part of the maintenance that Scott and I talked about, that is something that would not necessarily be up front to start with. That's, he was talking about cutting grass, natural, hiring of staff. So some of that stuff is in place already for our coaches. So some of that cost that Scott mentioned over long term may not be needed directly up front. He may be coming to you, I would think, but I'll let Scott speak to that as well.
Mr. Grandis, great question. What I'm going to potentially do based upon your decision tonight is carry this before our entire board next week for an action item to consider the additional $500,000 of our commitment of the project. And probably one of the questions, and I'm just going to kind of proactively think this out, is one of the questions is the memorandum, are they going to move forward their side if it's on that, from a resolution standpoint? We tend to make sure that we're going to put this on as an action item if you all are moving forward with it. How you do it, I would love to see the commitment already so that we can carry it for our full board and go ahead and say it's now we have to make the action on it on our side as well. But I'm going to defer that to however you feel fit to move forward on your end.
Well put.
I'm sort of thinking that I would entertain a motion for the town to execute a joint use agreement with the Johnson County Public School System.
Mayor, could we tweak that a little to be?
Tweak it all day.
We really can't approve an agreement tonight because we don't have one.
Correct.
So I think the council indicating its intent to move forward to negotiate a joint use agreement would be about as close as you can get at this point. And then we'll go to work to get that done, if that's your vote, and get that back to you. And it would have to be formally approved
Correct.
At some point.
Okay. Y'all good with that?
I'm good with that, but I do have a question because I know that Dr. Jones is up against a May 31st deadline for the NFL grant possibility. Is it feasible for us to have some form of either a special session or some sort of a vote? Well, it'd have to be a special session between now and the 31st. Because we can't, unless I misunderstood you, Jim, we cannot really make a motion for approval tonight.
We don't have a document.
We could do a resolution or maybe a memorandum of understanding, possibly, or not even that.
Anything that is non-binding, a memorandum of understanding, a memorandum of agreement, a resolution of intent, anything like that would accomplish getting it sort of over the hump. But we're still going to have to come back after the terms are negotiated and have a final approval.
Yeah. So what if we just entertain a motion to have the town manager work with the Johnson County Public School Board in a joint use agreement at Clayton High School?
That works.
Okay.
Is that sufficient, Dr. Jones?
Is that sufficient, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Wood is the Chair of Finance Committee.
I think that'll be very sufficient, Mr. Grandis, and we look forward to carrying this for our board if y'all approve it tonight and get the other side taken care of, and then let our attorneys take care of the joint use agreement with our, with your town manager as well, and us forming something that's compatible to both sides. But yes, that'll suffice us tonight, and we can move forward on our end. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to instruct the manager and the attorneys to work with Johnson County Public Schools on a joint use agreement as it pertains to Clayton High School. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you very much for your time. It's very important. Certainly appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you all.
Thank you. Thank you all.
I'm going to leave some masks
Thank
in
you.
the pen so they can pass them out.
All right, up next is employee introductions.
Sarah, would you like to step up to the podium? I'd like to introduce everybody to Sarah Byers. She has started with the town last Monday, May 3rd. She is working as our front desk receptionist. She will be working the afternoon shift, Monday through Fridays between 1 and 5 p.m. Sarah has over 29 years of municipal experience. She comes to us from Boynton Beach, Florida with their police department. And she relocated to the Clayton area in September of 2020 to be closer to her grandchildren. So welcome, Sarah.
Council, everyone here, I just want to thank you all for the opportunity to be part of the Clayton team and their workforce. As Ms. Moffett said, I've been here since September. I'm very impressed with the town of Clayton because I come from a big city and I like little town life. And again, I'm grateful for the job and I thank you all.
Awesome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Members of the council. Lee Barbie, Fire Chief. I'd like to reintroduce Amy Sharon. Amy started work with Town of Clayton in March of 2014. She started as a program coordinator for the Clayton Community Center and became the town's first special events and marketing coordinator in 2019. Prior to working for Clayton, she worked with the town of Apex and the town of Garner. Amy has a bachelor's and a master's degree from North Carolina State. Amy did another first in January. She moved to the fire department as our first emergency management coordinator. Amy.
Thank you for having me tonight, and thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to this position and growing in the fire department and being a part of this town for a long time. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy.
Thanks, Amy.
Mayor, Councilman Matt Sutphin, Deputy Chief Fire Department. It's my honor tonight to introduce three individuals who just completed our promotion assessment center. And I think if you ask any of them, they're going to say it's no walk in the park. And if you got to see them that day, I think you could tell by the sweat that was pouring off them before they walked in. So I'm going to start out with firefighter Joel Shanks, who's being promoted to engineer. Joel was born in Germany, where his father served as a Green Beret in the 10th Special Forces Group. He lived most of his life in upstate New York, where he met his wife Tamara. Joel and Tamara have two sons, Parker 9 and Preston 4. 2018, they moved to Clayton. Joel has been in the fire service since 1998. He has served those years on various departments, but currently is a volunteer at Thanksgiving Fire Department and full-time with Clayton. In his spare time, Joel enjoys spending time with his family and working in his yard.
I'd like to thank everyone for the opportunity. I love working for the town of Clayton, Chief Barbie, and I look forward to the future.
Awesome. Welcome.
Welcome.
Chief Sutphin as well, yes.
Who?
Next, we have engineer Kyle Driver being promoted to captain. Kyle was born in North Carolina, where he's lived most of his life. Kyle started in the fire service in 2013 as a volunteer with the Cleveland Fire Department. While volunteering with Cleveland, Kyle completed his associate's degree in fire protection technology. In 2014, Kyle joined the Clayton Fire Department as a part-time firefighter. In 2017, Kyle was hired as a full-time firefighter with Clayton. Shortly after, Kyle bought a house here in Clayton where he met his wife, Stephanie. Kyle and Stephanie have a 10-month-old baby boy named Tucker. In his spare time, Kyle enjoys spending time with his family, being outdoors, and exercising.
Appreciate the opportunity from everybody and look forward to staying here, hopefully till I retire.
We'd like that.
Last but not least, Captain Stacy Turner, promoted to Battalion Chief. Stacy has 25 years of emergency services experience serving with the multiple fire departments and EMS departments. He began his career full-time with Clayton in 2017. He currently works part-time as a paramedic with Johnson County EMS and volunteers with Kenley Fire Department. He is married to his wife Jennifer of 13 years, has 3 sons and 1 soon-to-be daughter-in-law. When he is not working, Stacy enjoys outside sports and spending time with his family.
Just like to thank the council and town for the opportunity to continue to serve. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And next is the recognition of long-term employee.
Mr. Mayor and Council, I'm going to ask James Warren to step up here. This is a little bit bittersweet. I've been fortunate to be able to work with James the last 4 years. Last few of them I know have been on borrowed time. I think James has been ready to retire for a while, but through his commitment to the town and public service in general, he's been willing to stay on with a few of the small projects we've got going on here as of late that happen to be right in his wheelhouse. James has been with the town for 27 years. That's not something you can say very often in pretty much any profession these days. But the town has really been fortunate with James's leadership at the wastewater treatment plant, seeing that through many transitions, many growth spurts, continuing on right now to some of the major projects that we've been fortunate enough to have here in Clayton to support the growth that we've seen. He was integral in the pre-treatment plant project a few years ago, working with Novo Nordisk and trying to bring that project to fruition. And we're proud to say that that is completed at this point. Still have a little bit of tweaking to do on it, but James and his staff have really been working hard on that, obviously. And obviously, the big project that's been on everybody's kind of minds the last few years here is the replacement of pretty much our wastewater treatment facility. James did a great job of keeping Little Creek running these last 27 years, but it is time to transition to the new facility out at the Neuse River. And without James's expertise and understanding and really guidance throughout that project, I don't think we would have been able to make as much progress and have the successes we've had. So, you know, there's a lot of things I could say to James, but I'll keep those offline. We have really appreciated, I personally have really appreciated your guidance and your efforts to help me along the way here the last few years. And I know your staff is very appreciative of all the hard work you've put in there to be able to leave Little Creek in good hands. So with that, I think the mayor has a resolution or.
I do. On behalf of the town of Clayton, we are honored to present you with this recognition of retirement, which reads, whereas our life is like a book, each completed milestone represents a chapter of our life, and whereas James Warren began his career with the town of Clayton on May 2nd, 1994, as a chief wastewater treatment plant operator, and whereas James is deeply committed to environmental stewardship and is a grade 4 operator, while also holding numerous other certificates, including the highest required to operate a wastewater treatment plant. And whereas James has served for many years on the Lower Neuse Basin Association Board and is very well known and trusted across the state of North Carolina. And whereas James has always been a devoted and loyal employee and always exhibited tireless efforts and valuable service to our community. And whereas James's knowledge has and input has plans and construction of the new wastewater treatment plant has been invaluable. And whereas James announced his retirement from the town effective June 1st, 2021, to take time, slow down, relax, and enjoy time with his family and friends. And whereas James has now completed his long-term chapter with the town of Clayton, and whereas James will be missed professionally and personally, we extend our very best wishes for a long, healthy, happy retirement. Duly proclaimed the 17th day of May, 2021, while in regular session from the mayor and Clayton Town Council.
Mayor, council, and manager, thank you very much. I would like to thank the citizens for a good career. Shouldn't have had something to eat. Well, when I came, I had red hair, right? Had a fertilizer spreader for de-icing on the back of a tractor, maybe 3 4-wheel drive pickup trucks, and we used to have a bombing Christmas party at the VFW. Right? And you remember that one.
Yes, sir.
But I really am appreciative of the opportunities that not only my managers have gotten, and those managers have been Tim Simpson, Lee Smith, who hired me, and Rich, but also the council, because it has enabled me to further my career. And one thing you forgot, I did graduate from NC State while I was working here. And that was possible because of the funding of your tuition assistance program and the ability that I had to shift my schedule around to attend the classes I needed to during the daytime. During this time, you started doing the classification studies where you were looking at our peers in the, around us. And you realized, we need to step things up a bit. So that kept me here because I had opportunities to go. So I'm very thankful for that. Also for the challenges. When some people get to the end there, you're 5 years, you're kind of bored and you go into auto drive. This hasn't been auto drive, but it's been appreciative, right? I think you've still got a lot of work ahead of you, but you've got good people, and if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you, so.
Yes, sir.
But I do really appreciate that. Some of the names, and, Mayor, you, Sue Johnson, and James Lipscomb had a big influence on me. Because up until then, it wasn't really talked about the employees and what we were going to do for them. You may not remember it, but you made a vote one time to let's give them 2% 401k, right?
Yeah.
That's the reason people stay. You're looking out for them, they're looking out for you. And over the years, you were able to mix it, so you were able to come up to the level of the other towns in the area. You're going to have some challenges coming up in the waste treatment world, and it's, my last hire took me probably 3 months to find the right fit and right person and have the right people apply. So it's a challenge, and you need to stay abreast in what's going on around you. And I've worked for some fine people. Skip Browder, Robert Hyatt hired me, actually. I had to negotiate with him a bit, but Amy Alford, Catherine Whitley, John Lee was another man. Bob Aylert, great deal of thing. And recently I saw Bob Satterfield. Boy, he's looking good, happy. And I'm happy for him because he helped our lives as employees. Mm-hmm. So hopefully, everything's going to go well with the treatment plant and everything's go well. But I am very appreciative, and yes, I hope I talked loud enough, Beth, on the YouTube.
I think you did a great job. I want to thank you again for your kind remarks. And you have definitely seen a lot in your career here in the town of Clayton.
Yes.
And we have definitely come a very long ways.
Right.
And you have been a huge part of that growth and that contribution.
One little funny story is I got one of the first 4 microcomputers that the town purchased because I kept bringing my letters to be typed to town hall. And Kikutu told me after about the 75th letter, I'm going to take care of this for you.
And she got you a computer.
Got me a computer and made the paper. So, you know, the town's come a long way, right? And I mean, and y'all are the reason for it. You know, you're progressive. You look out for people. So, and I think the people around you know that. But anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I want you to hurry up and go, because if you stay in here much longer, I'm going to ask the police chief to put an ankle monitor on you, because we won't be able to, we might not never get to see you much after tonight. And you're a valuable resource.
Well, I've always carried your flag. You know that.
Exactly. Thank you, James Warren. Up next is the introduction of Gannett Fleming with HDR staff.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a few gentlemen to step up. With regards to the wastewater treatment plant, I just wanted to give everybody a chance now that we've moved forward with our selections for both the design build team as well as our owner's advisor. Just want to take a moment for these gentlemen to introduce themselves to you all. The first two gentlemen that are standing right here, David Broughton, Craig Crowther. You may recognize them from the previous project they did here in town, the wastewater pre-treatment plant, just on the other side of town. I'll give them a moment to kind of introduce themselves, and then I'll ask the guys from HDR to step up.
Good evening. Happy to be here. We've been excited about this job for a long time now. Obviously, did the first piece, I call it, over there at the pretreatment plant. Got the great opportunity to work with James and Tim Simpson, Nancy Medlin, and really enjoyed working for the town and with the town and Nova Nordisk on that job. I was the design project manager. Been delivering projects about 32 years here, local to the area. So I'm a capital project delivery project manager. So this was my wheelhouse, but it's also a big danger for you guys, for us. There's a schedule on this thing. We understand October of 2023 is coming, and there's a plant over there that has a capacity issue that we need to help you out with. So we're on board. We have a good plan together, and Craig, say a few things about it.
Good evening. Thank you very much. So my name is Craig Crowther. I've been in the area for 30 plus years, doing EPC projects along with David, focusing in the industrial market and wastewater. We're very excited about this project, and like David said, October of 2023, we'll be here before you know it, and we're working very hard to bring this job to fruition for you, and we're looking forward to it. But thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Going to ask Adam and Steve to step forward. Recently, we discussed the owner's advisor, Adam Sharp, Steve Brown, as well as a team of other staff on their end, as well as Craig and David have a few other people working on the project. But Adam and Steve are really going to be the representation that we need from the day-to-day, as well as assisting us with tracking project controls and making sure that they herd all the cats on our side. So I'll give Adam and Steve a moment to kind of introduce themselves as well.
Thanks, Rich. I've had the privilege. My name's Adam Sharp, by the way. So I'm the principal on the HDR team as the owner advisor. Our role really is to be your representative on behalf of the project, to help drive schedule, help drive quality, and watch the day-to-day, week-to-week, make sure we're meeting your objectives your objectives are being met for this facility. We've got a team of folks that are helping us with the project, Steve being one. I'll let Steve tell a little bit about his background and why he's part of the team. I think he's going to be an important part of the owner's advisor. I've had the privilege of working for you guys for probably a better part of a decade. I've been before you on a number of wastewater issues over time. So I'm familiar with the dynamics of your system. I'm familiar with your partnerships. I'm familiar with the reason why this plant has come to be in the history. So I do bring a little bit of that to the table to provide some of that big picture context to make sure we're keeping with the long-term strategy. So thank you for doing that.
Awesome. If you need any tools to keep this thing on track, you just let us know.
I appreciate that.
All right.
I'll let Steve introduce you.
Hold on just a second. Mr. Holder.
I have a challenge for you.
Sure.
Let's move October to April.
October to April.
It's a good challenge.
Yeah.
The sooner the better. We need that today.
Do not disagree.
Yes.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Steve Brown. I'm with HDR. I've been with the firm about a year. Before that, I retired from the town of Cary. I was a Public Works and Utilities Director, Director of Water Resources for many years there. You're undertaking a very special project. A greenfield wastewater treatment plant is a very unusual thing. And I had the privilege of escorting one of those across the finish line for the Western Wake Water Reclamation Facility. Worked on that for many years, and so I kind of sat in your role, and I have real appreciation for what it's like to be the owner and operator of one of those facilities and get it successfully to the finish line. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I feel very privileged to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
And again, there's a team of gentlemen and ladies behind these guys, but I just want to make sure you guys had an opportunity to put some faces to the names that you may hear. This is going to be the team that brings us over to the goal line. October 23 is the current goal line. The challenge, we'll see if these guys can deliver on it, but I just wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity for you all to ask any questions if you had any.
Great. Questions or comments? All right. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Up next is our first public hearing. It's 2021-04 SUP Smithfield Chicken and Barbecue Special Use Permit. It's a quasi-judicial hearing, and I'll turn it over to the attorney for some comments on the quasi-judicial process.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. As you know, the quasi-judicial process is a constitutionally required due process procedure. Unlike legislative approvals such as rezonings where you have discretion, you sit as fact finders in quasi-judicial proceedings. You are to make your decision based on the evidence presented at the hearing, and there is a requirement that the applicant prove entitlement to the permit by competent, substantial, and material evidence. Certain types of evidence can only be presented by experts, and if need be, we'll get into that. But those are that's the outline at a high level, and elaborate as needed as we go through the process.
Thanks, sir. All right, we'll turn it over to staff.
Is there anybody that wants to offer testimony? I'll go ahead and swear everybody in. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly affirm the testimony you're about to give is true to the best of your knowledge and belief? Thank you. Come up, please make sure you sign the oath sheet. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor McLeod, members of the Town Council, Jeff Keynes, Senior Planner with the Town of Clayton. This is a continuation from a couple weeks ago, so everyone has seen the PowerPoint presentation and is probably familiar with the site, but I'm just going to briefly go over it to remind everybody the location and the purpose of why we're here tonight. Tonight is for a special use permit and a site plan for a parking lot across the street of Durham Street from the Smithfield Chicken and Barbecue. It's approximately 0.3 acres in size and is currently a vacant gravel parking lot. As I showed you last time, the site plan of the parking lot, it would be paved with a number of parking spaces and surrounded by vegetation that currently meets current landscape requirements and code according to the current adopted UDC. The site is currently zoned office institutional. You can see the surrounding zoning, surrounding properties with the zoning on top of it. It does have an R8 component property abutting to the north. It does meet the setback requirements and the buffering requirements for that residential properties on the north side. And again, just showing the future comprehensive plan. Staff has taken a look at it. We believe it does meet the consistency of the comp plan and consistency with the surrounding areas. Tonight, we're going to hear mostly from the applicant to go over the facts and findings of the case. That was one of the concerns of the council last time. So with that, we believe that there are certain considerations the town council should take up if approved. If the council does make findings regarding the special use permit, as we mentioned before, the applicant will need to show the facts and findings, and the burden of proof is on the applicant to show those. Staff doesn't need recommendations for the application itself. However, we do have some special conditions of approval if the council does approve the parking lot. One of them would be for the off-site, for the frontage improvements. We do have a project going to Force Main, going right in front of the property. What we've come up with as town staff is to postpone the frontage improvements until the Force Main project is complete. Once complete, the applicant will have a certain time period to complete the frontage improvements to wrap up the entire project. I don't have the details on the Force Main project since it is a public works project, but we have spoke with the applicant's representative for the conditions, and everyone's in agreement that this would be a timetable that would be agreeable to all parties involved. And with that, I'll conclude my staff report. Any questions I can answer, be more than happy to do my best.
Mr. Granis?
With respect to stormwater requirements, could you elaborate what requirements the applicant's going to be subjected to?
I'm going to bring up the town engineer to address stormwater requirements.
Members of Town Council, Joshua Baird, Town Engineer. In regards to stormwater, the project is subject to stormwater ordinance. This is considered a common plan of development, so it is associated and combined with the previous renovation of the Smithfields site itself across the street. So common plan of development there, it's looking at the total site. When the other building was renovated, there was a decrease in impervious. Engineer can also speak to this further as far as their calculations, but looking at it from a stormwater management plan, this combined with their site is less impervious than, with the parking lot, it's less impervious than the old site. So there was some demo of existing impervious. So with that, looking at it, looking at the runoff rates, and from a treatment standpoint, they're below what was existing. And so there's not required treatment of any sort regarding that. Now, that's not to say that when we get into the CD process, we'll still need to look at pipe sizing and everything to ensure that the existing infrastructure can take that amount of flow. But in terms of treatment and detention requirements, until we get into pipe sizing, there's been none from an overall treatment standpoint.
While I've got you there, when do you expect the improvements to be done on Durham that would coincide with this project?
Right, so we anticipate bidding that project late summer, mid-summer, mid-late summer, go into construction sometime in early fall. And the construction timeline is approximately a year. It is a long corridor, so I can't say and can't speak to exactly at what point during that year the project would come through. It is a linear project, and so depending on how the contractor phases as far as the bores and everything else that has to occur, I can't speak to exactly, but I would anticipate sometime between fall of this year and fall of next year that project being completed.
And I would assume that the curb gutter and sidewalk that they'd be required to put in would coincide with that, correct?
We would want to see that done after. Instead of putting in the new, our contractor, us having to pay more to a contractor to demo it and then to replace it, we would like to coordinate the project where that stuff is coordinated, Force Main comes through, and improvements come in after that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, any other questions for staff? If not, I'll give the floor to the applicant.
Evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, Fleet Temple, Enoch Engineers. Coming back from 2 weeks ago, I guess first thing I'd like to do is add these finding of facts to the record. Can I bring those up, or?
Yes, to the clerk.
Say again?
To the clerk. That'd be great.
I think we've covered the finding of facts this time around. I don't know if you heard me, but I could read through them, or?
Yeah, I think you should probably read them into the record.
Okay. Okay, finding of fact number 1. The parking lot is proposed on a piece of property directly adjacent from the restaurant with clear and visible access from Durham Street. We did not have a striped crosswalk and pedestrian signs when we submitted. That was brought up 2 weeks ago, and we've talked to the owner. They're very willing to do that. Finding of fact number 2, the application meets all of the required specifications and conforms to the standards of the OI zone. Site plan has been reviewed through TRC process and it has received preliminary approval. Number 3, the approved site plan for the parking lot on this site contains a proper dimensional standards and buffering to mitigate any adverse impacts it may have on adjoining or abutting properties. Parking lot does not have any impact on the use or development of adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. Storm drainage from the new parking lot will be collected in new catch basins and drained to the Town of Clayton Storm Network, which is located on Durham Street. Landscaping will be provided per town standards. Number 4, the site plan for this parking lot will contain the elements of adequately situate the use within the policies and plans adopted for the zone and future land use of this area. The existing standards for development of the adjacent properties in this area are aligned with the use of this property as a parking lot as the area commercial uses with parking areas within the proximity of this project. All town standards and specifications will be adhered to during design and construction phases of the project.
All right, any questions for the applicant? Mr. Granis?
I don't have any questions, but I want to thank you for elaborating on the findings of fact, because
I apologize for not being prepared 2 weeks ago.
The good news is for me, and the council can attest to this, I'm kind of picky when it comes to this sort of stuff, but I think you've done a decent job, and you've answered the questions that I would have had to ask you. So I want to thank you for that.
Anyone else? All right, anyone here wishing to speak against? All right, no one here wishing to speak against. There's no need for a rebuttal. And we'll turn it over to council for their deliberation. Mr. Granis.
Mr. Mayor, after considering the competent material and substantial evidence presented, including the application and materials of record, I move to approve SUP application 2021-04-SUP, the Smithfield Chicken and Barbecue Special Use Permit. This motion is based upon the following findings. The application will not materially endanger the public health or safety if located where proposed and developed according to the plans as submitted and approved. 2, the application meets all the required specifications and conforms to the standards and practices of sound land use planning and the town code of ordinances or other applicable regulations. 3, the application will not substantially injure the value of adjoining or abutting property and will not be detrimental to the use or development of the adjacent properties or other neighborhood uses. And 4, the application will not adversely affect the adopted plans and policies of the town or violate the character of the existing standards for development of the adjacent properties. And if approved, the applicant should also abide by the conditions that are a part of our agenda packet.
Second. We have a motion and a second for approval. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Up next with items 6B, C, and D, all Lumen-related rezoning, subdivision, and development agreement. They've asked to continue to the June 7th, 2021 meeting. Is everybody good with that? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And before we get into the park and recreation bond concepts idea, I have a request for a 15-minute break. So we'll be back in 15. right, I'm ready to call our meeting back to order. And the next item on the agenda under new business will be the capital project ordinance amendment. No, I'm sorry, go back to old business. The next item under old business is going to be park and recreation bond concept ideas. Yeah, I was just making y'all sweat a little.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council and Mr. Coppola. I am delighted to be here to be one of my first times in front of you with some of the most fantastic news about our 2019 Parks Bond. I'm joined here by our Director of Parks and Rec, Scott Bernard, as well as many of the representatives from the Recreation Board, and their support is evident by them being here with us this evening. We would like to present some recommendations for information to move forward with Phase 1 and subsequently after that Phase 2 of our Parks Bond, utilizing our $18 million that we received during a 74% GEO bond vote. In recent weeks, to begin to emerge from some of the delays related to COVID, we have begun to look at all of the data that has been presented to us over the course of the last year and a half or so from Sage, McAdams, our own staff. We have gotten together recently and begun to collaborate to make some of the final preparations for some of the conceptual drawings you will see this evening that take into account a lot of stakeholder input that took place during your 2019 master plan that you have related to the bond, as well as look at our existing budget and then the amenities that we wanted to have each one of the parks to have. And that amenities were chosen based upon what was the stakeholder input, as well as bearing in mind the budget that we need to have to ensure that all three parks have deliverables at the end of this bond cycle. So we are very excited to present this to you this evening. Like to, in advance, thank Mr. Bernard, who very enthusiastically and passionately talks us through all things related to Parks and Rec. Is evident when he speaks. And we enjoyed this process. I will give kudos to Mr. Coppola, Joshua Baird, Matt Moore in GIS, Mr. Bernard, Matt Lorian. All of these folks sat together in the room and really began to unscramble everything, and then the unwavering support of our recreation group that works with Mr. Bernard. So we'd like to begin to walk you through some of the amenities that you will see. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bernard to do that. And again, thank you for giving us this opportunity to share this information.
Thank you.
Mayor and council members, good evening. Pleasure to be before y'all again. I'll start out with, really what I'm coming before y'all this evening with is the unanimous recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board to move forward with some of the amenities we're going to show y'all this evening at East Clayton Park, Municipal Park, and then moving forward with either renovations or restoration or replacement of the tennis courts at Community Park. That is their recommendation for the first phase of the bonds. And that all goes back to, some of the initial work that was done by Davenport and in working with Robert Mackay on, really what our funding available was as we looked at how the bonds would be sold. And we would likely have somewhere in the neighborhood of 2/3 of the money in the first sale and 1/3 of the money potentially in the second sale. So obviously a lot of this is fluid. The next steps, not the next steps, but some of the next steps we'll take is once we have hard numbers, then we'll sell bonds and then we can award projects. That's really kind of the order that a lot of this will go in. But let me get down into some of the details and I'll move as quickly as you want me to, or I'll slow down. So what is shown before you guys is East Clayton Park, and what we heard from the very beginning with our work with the public and the stakeholders, the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board that served as the advisory board for this, the stakeholder board for this process was the priority was artificial turf and sports lighting for this park, converting the two upper fields, which are kind of shown in a purplish, to artificial turf and then lighting them. The lower rectangular field, not the small one, but the lower one that's roughly half the size, is already in natural turf. It is irrigated and is lit. So what this will do is essentially complete this complex, giving it 3 full-size soccer pitches that also accommodates football, lacrosse, rugby, ultimate frisbee, whatever they invent next week. And we would have 3 lit fields at this site. Additionally, to complement those improvements would be some improvement to the drive entrance. We're representing that with a traffic circle, but people smarter than me may design that slightly differently. And then we're showing a portion of the parking lot being paved up into the Harmony Playground. But again, how far we go with that would really be dependent on budget. We'd love to go further, but if dollars come a little bit short, we may pave a little bit short of that. But we've got to address that entrance. So really to highlight the recommended improvements for here are artificial turf for those 2 upper fields, sports lighting, improvements to the entrance for safety and traffic circulation, and then paving a portion of the parking. Here's an estimated cost breakdown. Boy, that's even tiny on this screen. I know you guys have that available to you. But roughly estimating that with a contingency estimated escalation, the upper number looks like it's coming in at 5.4. All right. Breakdown just in Excel detail or spreadsheet detail, talking about everything from trash cans to the existing amenities. All right, and then moving over to Municipal Park, and this is obviously the town's oldest park, and it's really the one that's been neglected the longest, as well as it's in the heart of our downtown. So the recommended amenities list is firm. The location of these amenities is, I would say, really fluid. Right now, we've got them really clustered where they exist today. Our recommendation on this park, or the recommendation of the advisory board, would be that we at least consider design build, because that'll give us some flexibility to work within our budget to deliver all these amenities and probably really rethink the layout of this park. So, don't get dialed in too much into the fact that the playground is showing roughly where the playground is today. I'd say it's very likely that that's going to move around, as well as maybe even the orientation of the band shell, et cetera. But the list of the amenities is extremely accurate in that new playground, basketball courts, splash pad, restroom, picnic shelters, improvements to parking, a band shell, landscaping, and really what we've described to the public, starting at the very beginning with Sage, is our community's lawn. So a large public open green space that would be a place for folks to enjoy concerts, laser light, perhaps fireworks if they were able to continue to exist at our existing site, but really that large community gathering space for public events. That would be accented by the band shell, or actually anchored by the band shell, and then accented with the splash pad, playground, picnic shelters. Walking circulation would obviously be incorporated into that as well. Broken down in spreadsheet form, high-end estimate coming in at 3.7. Again, looking at it in. And then this one, although not a part of the advisory board's unanimous recommendation at this time, because this would be in the second bond sale and in the out years, but these are the amenities that were consensus driven from both the Sage and McAdams process. And these are playground and picnic shelter, improvements, replacements, enlargements of the tennis courts, really whatever the site will allow. Some road frontage improvements, and biggest of all for folks that are utilizing the park today would be increased parking. We really only built half of what parking was shown on the original plans for this park, and we've since added things in where some of that parking was shown. So we're really kind of going back to the beginning and completing this park, as was our original marching orders from y'all, was to complete our parks. High number on that one is coming in at 6.7. Spreadsheet form, kind of looking at it a different way. And that brings me to the not very exciting blank screen. Gentlemen, I know you've got to have a few questions. I'd be more than happy to answer them, as well as perhaps members of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. I'm really appreciative of them sticking it out.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I know that. All right, any questions or comments for staff? Mr. Granis?
Could you go back to community park? We don't have that in our packet. So with respect to the tennis courts, are you actually going to relocate them?
You know, that's still being evaluated by staff as well as, one of the consultant teams. So the plans as shown by McAdams show them relocated over near the recreation center. The plans as shown by Sage originally show them on this same site with some expansion. The site, may or may not allow that based on some of the geotechnical information that we received. But, anything can be done. There may be ways to mitigate those soft soils that are in that, or there are ways to mitigate those soft soils. So really what we're looking at this point in time is where can I give you the best bang for the buck? And I don't have the exact answer to that yet. But I will tell you that the tennis community's interest in having those courts replaced, resurfaced, moved, they really don't give a rip. They just want courts that are playable. And the courts that we have today at that site are increasingly becoming unplayable. It is where the high school is currently playing, so it's been a great stopgap for them as they've replaced their courts. So they're going to turn around and do us that same favor in that we'll have access to their courts while we take care of ours. So kind of works out pretty nice.
And in Municipal Park, I know there's been some discussion about, I'm not going to say take away the basketball court, but make a multi-court design, meaning it could be used as a basketball court, it could be used as maybe a pickleball court, it could be used as a tennis court. I have a bit of a concern about that, which you obviously know I've expressed. I go by probably 5-6 times a day, right by those basketball courts, and I don't, unless it's raining, there's somebody there. Yes, sir. And most of the time, especially in the evenings, they're playing half court because there's so many kids and young adults, I should say. And I think if you don't have a dedicated basketball court, you're running a bit of a risk. That's just my take. But I like what I see overall. I'm excited that we're finally doing something.
As am I, and the people in the sexy, maroon shirts behind me feel the same way.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Can we get to the slide of the municipal park?
I'm trying. There we go. And again, please don't get married to the location at this point in time. These are just listing of amenities.
Good, because I'm fixing to file for divorce on location. No, I'm kidding. I just wanted to say, for the record, and to our Park and Recreation folks who are here, as well as to staff, I think from this town council, and certainly from the mayor's perspective, this is a very special place. And we want to enhance that as much as we can. And it doesn't always necessarily have to equate to the number of dollars that you spend to create that, but placement would be what creates that. So I am in agreement with Councilman Granis that basketball court is always in use, and unless it is raining, I would agree with that 100%. And I know it could be utilized even more. And the reason that I say that is because First Baptist, they're on O'Neill Street, they've got a basketball goal in the middle of on the side of their parking lot, and I see kids out there playing every day as well. So municipal park is, it doesn't have to be the largest financial investment, but let's be extremely creative in creating a visual that looks phenomenal and inviting when you ride by, in addition to what we have where.
Mayor, my team, and the advisory board, we are committed to some wow at Municipal Park.
Awesome. Mr. Bone?
I have to agree with the mayor. As me being a hometown boy, this is our first park. I feel, this is our baby right here. What is a band shell?
A band shell is a stage that usually will have kind of a clam shell on the back of it, gives kind of a backdrop.
I got you.
So Wendell has a newer one. I can think of a number of others. There's one right after you cross the bridge into Surf City. It's visually, it looks like a performance space. It's an elevated stage with a back that's generally designed to project sound out.
2 questions. Are you planning on doing anything with the field and bathroom facilities? Anything about that?
Restrooms will have to be incorporated into the design and are on that list of amenities because they are required by code for a splash pad, so they are a must. As well as, I'll tell you, as a parent, I still have one young child. If I go to a playground, a bathroom is also a must. It's the first thing we have to check out when we get there. I don't know why, but standard operating procedure.
What about the field? Anything with the field?
So the vision thus far has been, and this has been consistent from the very beginning of the process, is that this would be a large open green space. It would be likely hybrid Bermuda irrigated turf. We're not talking, dandelions and clover grass. We're talking as nice as an athletic field, but that its primary purpose would not be organized athletics. Now, would we want to put 4, 5, 6-year-old soccer out there, maybe some very young kid flag football? Maybe, but it's not where we would play the finals of a lacrosse tournament. It's not where it's not going to be a space that's going to be hammered like an athletic field, nor is it going to be designed to be such. It is that place where when somebody calls and says, hey, where do I go throw Frisbee? Where do I go play ball with my kids? Where do I fly a kite? We're going to say, hey, it's to our hometown park. It's to Municipal Park.
Gotcha. Thank you, Scott.
Anybody else?
Just one
Mr.
other
Grandis.
question. The restrooms, I'm assuming, are going to be handicap accessible?
Absolutely. If somebody said, hey, what are they going to look like tonight? I would say very much like the restrooms at Harmony Playground. There's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel, and that's been a great design for us. It's one we stole from elsewhere, acquired from elsewhere, and it's working great.
Awesome. All right, anyone else?
Mr. Mayor, if I can for a moment. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to Dolores. Dolores was instrumental in getting us to this point. She thanked everybody else in the group, but really, I think her leadership and kind of getting us to the point where we could come to you all tonight and to the board was extremely helpful. I think coming out of tonight, I think really what we're looking for, based on the recommendation of the advisory board, is really just giving us the okay to move forward with, I guess, the elements of the elements of the parks as presented. Our next steps from capital project planning standpoint will be moving forward with finalizing designs and/or doing some requests for qualifications or proposals from qualified design professionals or design build firms, depending upon which delivery method we choose. But if there is consensus tonight, we'd like to go ahead and move forward with that.
Okay. I'm good with it. What do y'all think? Good? Yes. All right. I think you want that in a way of a motion, or you want that in a consensus, or what's your preference?
I'm not sure if everyone.
Agenda says information.
Yeah, I believe the agenda said it was informational only, so no action, I believe, is required. I think it seems like we got pretty good consensus here to move forward.
Consensus, yeah.
Awesome.
Great.
All right. Thank you
all very much. And
thank you.
Again, on behalf of the advisory board as well, thank y'all for your support.
Yes, thank you to our advisory board, everybody.
Thanks for the advisory board members coming out. Appreciate what you're doing.
All right, up next on the agenda is the capital project ordinance amendment, wastewater treatment plant. We could never have a Clayton Town Council meeting without hearing from finance. You just make us complete.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council, Robert McKay, Finance Director. Tonight we're asking Council to approve a budget amendment to the capital project ordinance for the Neuse River Water Reclamation Facility. We're amending the ordinance to reflect the expected total cost of $120 million to complete the project.
Awesome. Any questions or comments for staff? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr.
Make a motion to adopt ordinance 2021-05-01.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adoption of the ordinance 2021-0501. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Up next is the reorganization and reclassification of positions.
Thank you, Mayor. You all should have a copy of a document in front of you, and I'll ask the clerk to bring it up on the screen if you want to look at it that way. Essentially, over some of the conversations that we've had with regard to workload and management of the current initiatives that we have in front of us, as part of the FY22 budget, there are several position reclassifications that were requested. At this time, we are asking to go ahead and implement those now in advance of the formal adoption or approval of that document. Really with many of the, like I said, many of the initiatives that are going on currently, as well as some opportunities we have with some different staff, we'd like to go ahead and get these in place prior to July 1 so that we can move forward with getting them in place and readjust some of the workload that we currently are seeing within the different departments. As you can see, these represent positions in several different departments, including planning, finance, water and sewer, as well as public works. With the addition of Dolores's position as second deputy manager, there was already going to be some realignment of staff that we discussed at retreat a few months back. Basically, this pulls that realignment forward to effectively, if you're approved tonight, we'll go ahead and start moving forward with getting these positions in the new form by the next pay period. In terms of the dollars and cents of it, based on current lap salary as well as some other available funding, there will be no immediate impact to the actual expenditure lines of the budget. It would really just be reclassifying the positions by title and grade as noted here. Additionally, the FY22 budget that you all have been reviewing that we'll be discussing tomorrow already has these incorporated into them. So the dollars and cents of that document would remain largely the same as well. So our request is to move forward with these reclassifications as noted.
Questions or comments for staff?
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Grants.
Rich, are any of these positions currently vacant?
The only one that is currently vacant on the list right now with Steve Blasco leaving, his operations manager position has been vacant. That would be reclassified as a facility maintenance superintendent, and I believe we are prepared to make an offer to a candidate within that new position title.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Horne.
Rich, what's this going to cost us annually?
Annually?
Yeah.
I'd have to pull that. I'm not sure if Mr. McKay has the exact number of what the total of all these where I have adjusted here based on all the positions, depending upon whether it's the general fund or the water and sewer. There appears to be approximately $30,000 total for the general fund, and I'd have to go back and verify the numbers 100% with Robert. I do want to note too that with the position, the operations manager position that's being reclassified, that position was filled at a higher rate than what will be backfilling it. So there will actually be a reduction there overall. So the impact total is not as much. And then on the water and sewer side, I believe the overall impact is approximately $20,000. But again, I'd have to get the exact numbers.
So you're talking about $50,000 or $60,000 annually.
Annually. And again, the numbers that you've seen in the FY22 budget already have those currently baked into it. Again, subject to town council approval.
All right. Anybody else? All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the reorganization and reclassification as presented.
I'll make such motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the reorganization reclassification as presented. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right. Up next, we'll jump into staff reports, beginning with the town manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Try to be as brief as possible today. First of all, I want to thank the mayor and the council for your trust in putting me in the interim town manager position. This is my first meeting since being placed here, and I really appreciate all the support and encouragement you guys have provided. I also want to really thank all of the staff. They've really stepped up and tried to, offered to help out in any way possible moving forward. So we've got a really good team here, and I just want to make sure we continue the good work at the town of Clayton. A couple items I do want to update you on. First and foremost, I do want to remind you all that we do have the budget work session tomorrow. We are scheduled to start at 8 a.m., 8 to 8:30, I believe, is refreshments and breakfast, but 8:30 we do plan on starting. I do have a presentation, as well as you all have had the budget book for a week or two here now, so hopefully we can work through any concerns or questions you have at that time. Next thing, with the recent CDC guidance, as well as the governor's orders last week, we've had a lot of questions regarding our current COVID practices. We spoke several times over the weekend with different municipalities, as well as been in constant contact with our executive team and the safety officer here at the town. I think the biggest thing for us right now is OSHA has now updated their guidance based on the current changes. Right now, our intent is to remain with the current COVID practices that we do have for all town staff and facilities, pending some additional guidance from them to ensure that we've got our workforce covered in terms of protection. So more to come on that, but did want to let you all know that our intent is to remain with the current protocols until we get that additional guidance. One other item, I do want to recognize Dick Hales. Dick, as you know, has been working with us as a part-time in the planning department. Obviously, with some of the changes at leadership recently, I've got a few extra hats to wear, and the planning director hat is one that I'm probably not qualified nor capable of carrying on right now. So I've had a conversation with Dick, and he's willing to step into as the interim planning director. So I will go ahead and formally recognize him moving forward and request any direct requests from the planning department to be, or any planning department requests to be directed to Dick as the interim planning director. Last but not least, I did want to call Amy up. We have a conversation about a special event that we'd like to have with you all just regarding the 4th of July coming up. So I'm going to ask Amy to have some comments.
Thank you very much. Like I said, I'm Amy Sharon with Clayton Fire Department. And as you guys are all aware, there are many variables that have affected our special events over the last year, not to exclude our upcoming traditional July 4th celebration. However, we are committed to having an event. We want to have an event to have the community come together and to celebrate Independence Day. Therefore, with your permission, we would like to move forward with planning a family-friendly event during the day on Saturday, July 3rd. Our goal is to close Main Street and work with our local businesses and bring out games and activities for the whole family to enjoy. We've had a preliminary meeting with other departments, and everyone is excited to put some plans into motion once we get your blessing. This event will be, work in partnership with our safety officer and make sure we're cognizant of any and all safety protocols, and hope we can continue to grow it over the years. So.
Awesome.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
I think I'm hearing consensus to go ahead and move forward with planning that event. Amy will be taking the lead from the town standpoint and gathering all the local, or all the staff, as well as the local businesses that will want to be involved as well. So more to come, but we're excited to be able to deliver something to the community for 4th of July this year.
Awesome. Great job. Thank you.
And that's it for me.
All right. Town attorney.
I have no report tonight.
Town clerk.
No reports, thank you.
Any other staff? I'll now open the floor for informal discussion and public comment. No one wishing to speak. I'll turn it over to council for comments. All right, no one having comments, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move with adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Good night.